dive into a little bit here today is I'm going to go through a little different. You've never seen this one before, but it's the truth about your mind. We've seen the identity iceberg, so we know all about that. But what if I told you the thoughts running through your mind right now, the ones whispering, you're not good enough, that success is reserved for other people, that you're stuck where you are, a lot of these limited beliefs that we have. What if I told you that they're not actual facts, but they are patterns? Patterns that, basically can completely be rewritten. So your brain isn't fixed. It didn't come preloaded with limitations or ceiling potential. It's a dynamic, adaptive, ever-evolving network of neurons. So you can tell that. Oh, I forgot to mention, I did read some neuroscience books in the last couple of weeks, so I've gotten pretty pumped up about this. So they're an ever-evolving network of neurons capable of reshaping itself every single day. So the science calls it neuroplasticity. I can barely say it. The brain's lifelong ability to create new neural connections and reorganize itself based on how you think, feel, and act. And every belief that you've accepted, every behavior that repeats, every emotion you default to, these are all neural programs, not lifelong sentences. And they're not written in stone, they're written in circuits, which means they can be rewritten. I find this very interesting. And here's the kicker, 95% of what runs your life is your subconscious mind, not the conscious mind. And that means that most of your daily actions, habits, and reactions are governed by automatic patterns wired by the deep unconscious mind. And only 5% is what you consciously choose when you're operating, which is interesting. So most people try to change their lives from the 5% version, so the conscious mind, using like willpower, motivation, or positive thinking alone. But that's like trying to steer a ship by paddling from the deck while the autopilot is locked below. If we don't reprogram the subconscious, the real operating system, we'll keep living the same story with different characters, right? So this isn't wishful thinking or motivational fluff. This is science. It's real evidence-backed neuroscience. So in the moment you understand how to access, influence, and rewire the subconscious, that's when change becomes not just possible, but inevitable. So as we go through this, I wanna point out a few key characteristics that people tend to have. So why do I teach this first? I get that a lot with business owners. What does this have to do with, business? Well, most business owners come to me and they often ask for strategies, tactics. They think will fix the revenue, the team, or the time issues that they're experiencing. But they skip one of the most important parts, who they are as an owner, their identity. So here's the truth. Results don't change when you apply new tactics. If your internal programming stays the same, that's because 95% of success is driven by what's below the surface, your beliefs, emotions, self-image, all running on autopilot in the subconscious. So 95% of our behavior is controlled by unconscious mind. So we don't even think that it's doing. It's on autopilot. This morning I was driving home and I was dropping, somebody off at the airport, and I was driving home like 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm driving down the street, and then all of a sudden I became conscious, and I was like, whoa, where am I, right? And I was on the street that I drove, but I was driving literally on autopilot. And when I came to, the street didn't look right. Like I was like, am I on the wrong street? But then all of a sudden I realized, no, this is the right street. It just really shows that we really do operate on our unconscious autopilot on a regular basis. So I guess that's why I start here every mastermind day when we talk about mindset. Until we rewire those patterns, every tactic will hit a ceiling. You see a lot of us, we go out, we have good intentions of doing things and they don't get done. It's not because we're bad people or anything like that. It's because we haven't rewired our subconscious mind. So when we're not conscious, we're going to do things unconsciously that don't serve us, because that's an environment that we've built over years and years and years. So 95% of success is your beliefs, emotions, and self-image. Remember that. So let's jump in a little bit deeper. So who's really in charge? So this is one of the most important distinctions in human performance. Your conscious mind is the part you're using right now to listen, analyze, and decide, right? As we're thinking here. It's responsible for the logic, willpower, planning, but it only controls 5% of your behavior. 5%. So your subconscious, on the other hand, is like your autopilot system. It runs 95% of the show. Your emotions, your habits, your beliefs, your self-image live here. So when somebody says, I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. This is why. This is why they say that, because the subconscious is overriding your conscious plan. So if we want sustainable success, we have to align the 5% of the thinking with the 95% of wiring underneath. It's not you're doing something wrong. I hear this all the time. I know what to do. I'm just not doing it. Anybody ever think that way? You ever wonder, like, hey, I know exactly what I got to do. I don't understand why I'm not doing it. So as we walk through and we start to think about these things, why you repeat business problem, and I'm going to explain a little bit here. So it all starts with single thought, usually unconscious, something like, I'm not good at this, or people like me never succeed. The moment we think it, we give it power, and we repeat it enough, and we reinforce it enough that that's the rule. What you repeat, you reinforce. So then emotion kicks in, frustration, fear, doubt, and that drives behavior. Hesitation, avoidance, playing small, thinking small. So that behavior leads to poor results, which then reinforce the original belief. So this becomes a loop. Thought, emotion, behavior, result, belief, strengthen. Unless we break it, it just keeps cycling like this. Any questions on this so far? Anybody relating to it? I know I am. So what you repeat, this is what you got to remember. What you repeat, you reinforce. So there's 7 tools to train your subconscious for business growth, and I'll walk through some of those. So if 95, let's look at it this way. If 95% of your of success is subconscious, meaning it's happening whether you like it or not, then we need the tools that speak the subconscious language, right? So not just logic, but willpower. So the first one is repetition and emotion. So these are the 2 ingredients for rewiring. Repetition forms neural pathway, but emotion locks it in. So for instance, if you're doing an I am statement and you're saying something nice or kind about yourself, you got to think from an emotion. You got to see, how does this make me feel? And you think about that while you're doing it, right? The next one is identity-based goals. So most people set achievement goals, but real change happens when we tie our goals to who we are becoming, not just what we are doing. You know, I hear just this morning, I had a call this morning, 5:30 with a lady in Newfoundland, and she says, you know, I can't see it happen. You know, she wants to set a goal, but how keeps coming in the way. She keeps thinking about how. I said, you know, it's pretty simple. The reason you can't understand how is because the person you are today may not be able to achieve that. So the fact is, when we set goals, we're always caught up in this loop. Well, how am I going to do it? Well, how is the enemy of what? You hear me say that all the time, but it's true, because if you knew how to do it, then you would just go do it, right? You don't got to think about it. That's what a goal really is, or a vision or a big dream or a goal. Because you basically don't know how to do it because you don't know how to do it. You can't know how to do it. You're not the person that you need to become yet. But that's the whole point of growing into the identity. If you set a goal and you want to achieve a goal, the change happens when we tie it to who we want to become. So if it's a goal and we want to become this person to get that goal, that will be a stronger way to do it. The third one is environmental cues. Your space programs your brain. What you see, hear, feel daily either reinforces the old identity or supports a new one. That's up to you. Environment is a big part of your, so like, you know, James Clear talks from Atomic Habits. Make things easy on yourself. If you're trying to create habits, you're trying to get new, better habits, don't leave things in the house that are gonna cause you to break the habit, you know, and sometimes making things simple enough that you can start the habit. Your space programs your brain. What does your space look like? Who's around you? Filtered input. Be ruthless with what you consume. Be careful with podcasts. There can be great podcasts. There can be toxic ones. Be careful with people, filtered input, people, media. Your brain is always listening, whether you know it or not. You ever have a thought one time and you're like, I don't even know where I learned that from, but it just came out of nowhere? It's something you're listening to unconsciously. The more you're listening to things, you're programming your unconscious mind. Be careful what you're programming. Number 5 is meditation and visualization. So this rehearsal for the subconscious, when you realize a new outcome with emotion, your brain starts to treat it as if it's familiar. You start to feel like it's who you are. This feels good. This is normal. Number 6 is journaling. For alignment, writing brings awareness. It helps you align your conscious intentions with your subconscious patterns. And number 7, coaching. Coaching plus pattern interrupts. So sometimes we need someone to interrupt the loop. We're stuck in a loop, and a coach helps you see blind spots and rewire it faster. So to get into the deep thinking around this. So when we talk about affirmation with feeling, the tool number 1 is repetition and emotion. So let's look at some thoughts here. So this is really where most people go wrong with affirmations. They repeat words, but there's no emotion. It's not the words alone that change you, it's how you feel while saying them. So instead of just saying, I am successful, say it while picturing yourself in a room, closing a deal, leading the team. Feel the pride, the certainty, the energy of it. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real experience and the one that's vividly imagined. So when you combine repetition and emotion, you start to trick the subconscious into accepting your new identity. So this tool is about practicing the future you until it becomes the current you. Speak it until you feel it. So most people set goals based on outcomes. I want to make 500K. I want more clients. I want more time. But the subconscious doesn't respond to wants. It responds to identity. So when you shift your goal to reflect who you're becoming, everything changes. It triggers a deeper alignment in your habit, decisions, emotional patterns. So for an example, don't just aim to make 500K. See yourself as a business owner who earns that because you lead with vision, you build systems, and you inspire a powerful team. See, this is where lasting change happens. Not when you chase a number, but when you become the person who naturally produces that result. When we talk about the environmental cues, we look at things. One thing you have to realize is you are always being programmed. The only question is by what? Your physical space, your digital space, and the people around you, they're all sending signals to your subconscious about what's normal, what's possible, and who you are. Vision boards, not because of the magic of it, but because they give your brain a visual cue to reinforce daily. So who you spend time with matters. If you're around limited thinking, fear, or drama, that shapes you. But if you're surrounded by driven, abundant, inspired people, like in a mastermind, that becomes your new standard. Morning rituals are powerful because they set the tone before the world programs you. And toxic inputs, remove them. Every scroll, every conversation, every email is either reinforcing your next level or pulling you back to your old one. When we talk about filtered input, your mind is like a sponge. Every bit of content you consume, every conversation you have, every label you put on yourself is actually programming you. So if you're constantly exposed to negativity, fear-based messaging, or mediocre thinking, that becomes your default. Garbage in, garbage out. Instead, study people who've succeeded in the way you want to succeed. What they think, say, do. Speak about yourself like someone who believes in their future. Even your casual language matters. I correct a lot of people a lot of the time. It gets annoying, I know, but it's so true. What you say to yourself is programming yourself. Say, I'm learning to lead a strong team instead of I'm terrible with people. And eliminate the habit of reinforcing the limited beliefs. Even if you're joking, by the way, your subconscious doesn't understand jokes. It just records it as the truth. When we talk about meditation, this one comes up a lot. You can't outperform your identity, but you can rehearse a new one. So visualization starts about fantasy. It's mental training. Olympic athletes use this all the time. Conor McGregor, all the greats that I've ever watched or learned about, they do this. Olympic athletes use it. Elite performers use it. And high growth business owners should too. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined. When you rehearse success with emotional intensity, you're installing new wiring. Meditation helps you drop into the brainwave state, which is where the subconscious is most open to suggestion, especially early in the morning or right before sleep. So the key isn't what you see, it's what you feel. Anchor your emotions, your confidence, clarity, gratitude, and achievement. That's what turns a mental image into transformation. Like when we think about journaling, this is an interesting one that I hear a lot about because people think they're just documenting. Journaling is not about recording events. It's about revealing your patterns. So most of what holds us back is hidden in plain sight. We don't catch the limited belief or the reactive behavior until we pause and ask the right questions. Questions like this: what belief held me back today? At the end of the day, reflection. You'll see on our diary, the action diary, at the end of the day, there's some reflection key points. So questions like, what belief held me back today? Force awareness. Once it's visible, it's changeable. What would my 7-figure self do right now? That's not just a mindset shift. It's a behavioral upgrade. It's a standard upgrade. You start acting from the future version of you. And what do I expect to happen? What questions surface unconscious assumptions and lets you ask, is that expectation actually supporting the outcome that I actually want? And over time, this kind of journaling literally recodes your identity. So you're no longer reacting from the past, you're choosing from your future. And the last one, coaching and pattern interrupts. Get challenged on your stories. Celebrate the micro wins. Use accountability to override emotions. You need disruption to grow. So we all live inside our own story. You know, you guys tell us, I've heard your stories. Sometimes I hear stories that are not nice. You know, people are not kind, I'll say. They're not kind stories that you're telling yourself. And so we live inside our own story, and our reasons, our fears, our identity scripts. The problem is you can't break a story you're living and believing. That's where, you know, coaching or having a tough friend comes in. A great business coach doesn't support you, doesn't just support, they challenge you. They interrupt your patterns and hold you up in a meeting. And you need that because transformation often feels wrong at first. You know that? It does feel wrong at first. It feels unfamiliar, it feels awkward, it feels vulnerable. That's not failure, that's rewiring. Celebrating micro wins is key. It builds the emotional muscle of success. If you only celebrate the big wins, you teach your brain that growth is rare. Instead, reinforce every step forward. So finally, accountability. Your emotions will talk you out of action. A coach holds that line. Masterminds hold that line so that you can reflect every single month, every week, every quarter, every year, and they keep you moving when your feelings want to bail. So train your subconscious, transform your business. So one key on this I just want to point out is if you remember just one thing from today, let it be this. Business success isn't about what you do. It's about who you are while you do it. Everything begins in the mind. Your thoughts shape your feelings. Your feelings drive your actions. Your actions create your results. But most people try to change the action without upgrading the identity, which is why the results don't stick. The real work, it's inner, it's subconscious mind. It's programming the 95% of you that runs the show on autopilot. Because once you train your subconscious to believe differently, think differently, feel differently, everything else shifts. Business especially. So what I want you guys to think about, take a moment right now, think about the 7 tools and pick 3 of them and get going. Awareness is great, but nothing changes until you apply it. The challenge is to pick 3 tools from the 7 we covered today, the ones that feel the most aligned and or the most uncomfortable, or both. So use the tools consistently for the next 7 days. Whether it's journaling, visualizing, filter input, disrupting patterns, commit to the daily practice. Write down that shifts. Whatever shifts, keep it documented. Notice what comes up, and most importantly, bring your experience to the next mastermind. Why? Because your brain doesn't change through information. It changes through repetition with emotion. That's what the challenge is designed for to create. Who's up for the challenge? Type it in the chat.
Great post, Amanda, in the chat as well.
Awesome. The only failure in anything is the failure to participate. So just a reminder of this. Most people try to change their results by tweaking their actions, but that's like rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship. So above the surface, we see the behavior, action, results, but these are the symptoms of deeper systems. Remember that. Under the surface is where the real work happens. It's where you'll find your skills, your beliefs, your values, and your identity. And the environment is reinforcing all of it. The iceberg represents your subconscious, and it's It's the part we train when we want lasting change. So if you're not getting the results you want, don't look harder at your to-do list. Look deeper at your self-image, your beliefs, and the wiring fueling it all. Anybody have any BFOs?
Just want to say thanks for talking about this identity stuff, every mastermind, every growth club, and then for going deeper into it, because it's powerful leverage. So I love it.
Yeah, I think for me, really looking at thinking about how I start my day and how often I haven't been doing it in a way that, if I think about it, is actually setting me up for success. And then, you know, by the time I get out of bed, I'm already not in the right spot. And I think I've got some changes I can make there.
Purple. Thanks for sharing that, Brent. Thanks, Lynn. Jake, what about you?
Setting an alarm to do meditation and journaling, because I used to do meditation and journaling all the time, and I've fallen off for like the longest time. And that last thing you said there was like, stop looking at your to-do list, why you're not getting results. That hit home to me. So yeah.
I don't know who said it to me one time, but they said, stop looking at your to-do list, start looking at your to-be list. You know, that hit me. I was like, because a lot of the times we're not doing these things because we don't want to. We're doing it because our subconscious mind is controlling what we do unconsciously, right? So, you know, it's a big part of it. Andrew, what about you? You got anything you want to share?
Yeah, you know, Derek, I went through kind of an interesting process one time where somebody shared the same sort of information with me, and the challenge was go and brush your teeth with your other hand for the next week. Now, all of us brush our teeth. I'm right-handed. I've been doing it for decades. You don't even think about it. But when you change and now you're using your left hand, you feel awkward. It feels difficult. You don't think you're doing a good job. But it's amazing if you do it over the course of a week or two or three, how it does start to get you more comfortable. And, you know, that's just a simple example of the kind of change that we have to go through to rewire our brains. And in the beginning, it is going to feel awkward and difficult. I actually worked with this woman who really believed in this stuff, and every 6 months she would change her mouse from her right hand to her left hand. And she always said the first week or two after it was awkward to kind of do it, but then she got into it. So, you know, there's a lot of people out here that really, you know, believe in this stuff, and I do as well. I think you can really rewire your brain, and, you know, it's interesting, Derek, because when I get into my sales part, there's going to be a part around kind of your attitude and your mental thinking around sales. So I think all this stuff is super important.
Yeah. What about you, Ali? What did you take away from that?
Actually, I was thinking about changing my mindset for a long time, and even one of my goals in this quarter is working on my mindset. And this stuff is kind of a pathway to me, and it will definitely help me.
Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I feel similar to Ali there, where it's the mindset piece is big for me, for sure. I know the journaling and the meditation would help. I just know I don't have the time right now to dedicate to that. But when I hit the off season, I'll have more time, and I think that'd be a good tool to incorporate in the second wave or whatever of kind of getting these 7 pieces kind of going more consistently in my life.
I think it's important to remember to keep it easy, right? Like, make it simple to begin with. You know, you want to start walking 5 minutes a day. You know, that's basically all it is. You don't have to go out and run a marathon on day one. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, this one hit home as well.